Welcome to Houston Sports Weekly, the KPRC2 Sports Podcast. I'm Ari Alexander. It is a big week for the Houston Astros, the defending champion Houston Astros, I should say. Pitchers and catchers have reported. We're waiting for the Astros to have position players report, although a number of them have shown up. For instance, Martin Maldonado is there. That's a Reggie Jackson candy bar, by the way. But Martin Maldonado's there, and he's got the braids, the locks, just like guys like Luis Castillo and, of course, Framber Valdez. And he said that his are better than Framber's. And Framber made the move to the dreadlocks, to the locks, the braids at the All-Star break. Got him done right before he pitched in the All-Star game, and then had him the rest of the year and still has him now. And then now Martin Maldonado's going with it. So we got some new exciting things going on with the Astros. The reason I got a Reggie bar, we'll talk about it in the second block, but for the first block, we're going to be covering the Houston Astros and some of the top storylines as I'll go around the team, and we'll talk about different things that matter within the Astros. So first of all, the big thing, of course, is their mindset going in to the spring training, coming off of a World Series. It's very hard to repeat, very hard to win 2 World Series titles in a row. It hasn't been done since the Yankees won 3 in a row in 98 over the Padres, 99 over the Braves, and 2000 over my New York Mets. But it's been 22, 23 years now since a team has gone back-to-back, and that is exactly what the Astros are trying to do. And I talked to Dusty Baker. I talked to Jim Crane. Dusty, he's got a back-and-forth week, man. So he was at spring training for a little bit. He flew back to Houston. Our local chapter of the NAACP honored him. And then the next night, the MD Anderson Cancer Clinic honored Dusty, and then he flew back to spring training. So he has had a lot of, he's gaining those miles. He's like George Clooney and up in the air, although I think he might be not exactly flying commercials. So good to see Dusty back and forth. Got to hear from him and Jim Crane a little bit about the mindset that the team has going in. So let's hear from those guys real quick.
You know, the main thing that I've noticed, because I've been on teams when I was playing and went to the World Series too, you have to guard against living in the past so much and getting back into the present, and then realizing, hey man, everybody's gunning for you, but hey, that's the position that you want. So, you know, you can't rest on your laurels. It's harder the second and third and fourth time. You got to go back to work.
I think these guys are prepared for that. I mean, this one was special. You know, we really played well and happy for the city. And what I was telling everybody, there's a big difference between winning and not winning the World Series. We got a lot more activity.
There's also a new head honcho, the general manager, Dana Brown. We've talked a little bit about him and what he brings, but the first at-length press conference with Dana Brown talking about his vision for the Astros and for what Houston is going to be has been really interesting to hear what kind of things that he has to say. So for Dana Brown to come in, and it doesn't seem like he's changing a whole lot of things, but the one thing that he's coming from the Braves, and what they like to do is have these big extensions for current star players, and it feels like that's exactly what he's doing. They've already extended one player, Christian Javier, a 5-year, $64 million deal. That deal will pay him $21 million a year those last 2 years, which are his free agent years, and that's where we're going to talk about this here in a bit. That's where it's going to buy out years, and it'll be interesting to see what the Astros do with Framber Valdez, who's quite a bit older than Christian Javier. He's 29 and not 25 or 26, and Kyle Tucker, who is a little bit younger. Kyle Tucker's 26, and he's got 2 more you can buy out this year, of course, in the next 2 years of arbitration, and then however many free agent years. So we're going to talk about first. Let's start with Framber Valdez. So he's pitching this season at age 29. So this is his arbitration 2 season. Because he was Super 2, and I'll briefly explain what that is, the top 22% of all rookies are Super 2. It's in the collective bargaining agreement. The way that most baseball players, the way that most of this works is that year 1, you get minimum salary. Year 2, minimum salary. Year 3, minimum salary. Year 4 is arbitration 1. Year 5 is arbitration 2. Year 6 is arbitration 3. And then you're a free agent. Okay? So Fromber was a Super 2 player. A small subset of rookies get what is called Super 2 status, which means year 1 minimum salary, year 2 minimum salary, year 3 is arbitration 1, year 4 arbitration 2, year 5 arbitration 3, year 6 arbitration 4. So you get paid a little bit more one extra year. And Fromber pitched early enough or gained enough service time as a rookie in his career that he was Super 2. And that's where you see a lot of it's happening less because this is such a big sticking point between the union and the league. But for a long, long time, and Chris Bryant is a good example, and we'll talk about him later as it relates to Kyle Tucker, filed a grievance because teams will leave their top prospect, who definitely should be on the Major League roster, in the minors for like a month, just to avoid them being Super 2, to avoid paying them an arbitration salary in year 3, where they would start arbitration in year 4. And so players have filed grievances saying this isn't fair. I'm clearly good enough to be on this Major League team. The only reason they're keeping me in AAA is to pay me less 3 years from now. And so that's been a big sticking point. A lot of teams do it. I mean, like Adley Rutschman didn't play, and kind of side injury, and Tampa Bay with Wander Franco. And I mean, like every team that has had a product, Bryce Harper, I think, did it back in the day where he didn't get called up even though he was quite clearly ready. A lot of these guys do it for Super 2 reasons. And a big one that didn't do it, and I thought was good, was a few years ago when Pete Alonso was a rookie for the Mets. They didn't Super 2 him. He came, he won the job in spring training, and they were just like, all right, you're the first baseman. We'll figure out Super 2 whenever we figure it out later. And that was surprising because the Mets before Steve Cohen liked to cut costs. And so that is why Framber Valdez right now is in ARB 2, but he still has 2 more years of arbitration left. And so in ARB 2 right now, Framber Valdez is making $6.8 million a year for his age 29 season. He'll be in ARB 3, his age 30 season, ARB 4, his age 31 season, meaning he'll be a free agent to start his age 32 season. The way that Framber Valdez and his age and everything works, it actually makes a lot of sense for him to sign a contract extension with the Astros. If they were to buy out, let's say, 3 free agent years, buy out the next 2 arbitration years, and give him a raise this year. It was reported by Hector Gomez, who's pretty plugged in Dominican reporter, that Framber Valdez was seeking more than $150 million, which I think would be very difficult for him to get because that would be like an 8-year deal or a 7-year deal considering you're buying out all these arbitration years. That was pushed back. Houston Chronicle talked to Ulysses Cabrera, who is Framber's agent, and he said that we haven't had these formal discussions. And then Dana Brown came back in his press conference and said, we've talked a little bit with Framber, we've talked a little bit with Kyle Tucker, and the answer really is somewhere in the middle. On one side, Framber probably does want a lot of money, just like every player, right? That 150 number may not necessarily be accurate, but I've heard from people close to the situation that the Javier deal has Framber, thinking about it. Yeah, how well could I do in an extension if Christian, who is less proven, who's younger, is getting $21 million a year for his free agent years? Framber could potentially get more. You're looking at Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer getting $43 million a year on short-term deals toward the end of their career. But that's kind of not 43, but like 25-ish is like the going rate for an ace type, number 2, a really good starter. Because 21 is for Christian Javier, who's never had a full season as a starter. He did not start as a starter this past year where he had these amazing performances. He still had 5 relief appearances in the regular season. This, 2023, is the first year where Christian Javier is going into camp as like, this guy's in the rotation, this guy's high in the rotation, we know he's a starter, right? And he's getting $21 million in 2026 and 2027. So Framber Valdez has got to be motivated to go, if he can get 21 a year, I can get 24, 25. That makes it very tough for that 150 figure, meaning they'd have to buy out 5 free agent years. That would be a 7-year deal or an 8-year deal, including this year, which would take him through the next 7 years, which would pay Framber through age like 37, right? I just don't think that that's going to happen. It does make sense for both Framber and the Astros to pay him through age 35. Give him a raise over the $6.8 million he's making this year, or at least build a signing bonus into it. Pay him a bigger ARB salary, let's say $12 million, $14 million for next year, 2024. Give him $18 million for 2025. And then he's getting 26 million for the next 4 years after that. So you're now looking at an extension of 6 years. Let's see, I can do math in my head here. 14 plus 18 is 32. 26 times 4 is 104, 132. So now we're looking at a 7-year, 6-year, $135-ish million contract. That makes decent sense for Fromber, based on how well he's performed. That gets tougher, though, with Kyle Tucker because of the age. So Kyle Tucker's 26, right? He just turned 26. This is his age 26 season. He's going to play his age 27 season as ARB 2. He's going to play his age 28 season as ARB 3. He's going into free agency, and the first year that he'll play after free agency, he'll be 29. At 29 is a really good age to be a free agent, right? So conceivably, Kyle Tucker could land a $200 million deal. I have long thought that, especially after this past year, Kyle Tucker is a $200 million player. And if the Astros don't want to give him $200 million in an extension, I don't think you have that great of a chance of re-signing Kyle Tucker because he'll just go to free agency at 29, sign a 7-year, $200 million deal. We'll take him through 36, sign one more contract, but he'll get that one big contract. At 26, for Tucker to sign maybe a 5-year deal would work, but why would Kyle Tucker want to hit the market at 33 for a smaller contract plus extension when he could get his one massive contract at 29? And the guy I'll use as an example, as a good comparison for this, is the guy we brought up for Super 2 is Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant, at 29, signed a 7-year, $182 million deal with the Colorado Rockies. There are ups and downs to Chris Bryant on the comparison. The thing that Chris Bryant has over Kyle Tucker is he was a league MVP. Tucker hasn't been, right? Chris Bryant also a little bit better known player nationally. Partially he was on the Cubs, first World Series. He was their star, league MVP. That's why. Tucker's probably a better fielder. He won a Gold Glove. Chris Bryant's not a bad fielder. He's versatile, but Tucker quite a bit better, good outfielder, right? When you look at OPS plus, total, how good these guys are at hitting, Chris Bryant's at like a career, I think going into free agency was like a career 132 OPS plus, and Kyle Tucker's like 130. They're basically the same thing. So I think that comparison is useful when it comes to Kyle Tucker. We're looking at 7 years, $182 million. Now factor in inflation for the next couple of years because the salary tax, where you go into the tax is higher than it was when Chris Bryant signed it, only last year, right? So 7 years, $200 million, roughly, for Kyle Tucker seems to be a pretty good number. And it's good to hear from Dana Brown that there aren't really hard feelings in arbitration between Tucker, Casey Close, his agent, Jason Romano, one of his agents from Excel, and Dana Brown and the Astros, because that's a worry. Tucker lost his arbitration case. He filed for $7.5 million. The Astros filed for $5 million. Tucker lost. He got his $5 million. Corbin Burns, Cy Young winner for the Brewers, talked at spring training, and he was upset at the Brewers, the way that they handled the arbitration meeting. They basically, according to Burns, blamed him for the Brewers not making the playoffs to try to save $740,000. The Brewers filed at $10.1 million or $10.01 or whatever, and Burns filed at $10.75, less than $1 million apart. And he's saying that they went in there to the arbitration, to the room, and blamed him for them not making the playoffs to try to save $740,000. I hope nothing like that happened with Kyle Tucker. Dana Brown is saying that there's no bad blood between him and Excel and Kyle Tucker's people, and it's arbitration. He lost his case, and that they want to extend him. It'll be interesting to find out what happens, because I personally, the way that Kyle Tucker age is set up, unless the Astros go big into the $200 million and take him through a young enough age, or at least a big number to where he can get another big contract, I think it makes more sense for Kyle Tucker to wait until free agency and then sign his massive, probably $200 million deal. Coming up next on Houston Sports Weekly, we went to the Travis Scott Celebrity Softball game. Pretty cool event. I'll tell you more about it on the other side of the break. And eating the Reggie bar with Reggie Jackson, which is a pretty cool side quest I got to do. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Houston Sports Weekly. A lot of the Astros, almost all the Astros, except for Alex Bregman, who was there at this event, are in Florida. Pitchers and catchers have reported. Hitters don't need to report for a few more days, but there are very few guys still back in Houston. One guy who is back in Houston, a couple of guys actually, Reggie Jackson, the advisor to Jim Crane, and of course, 5-time World Series champion, Mr. October. Alex Bregman showed up for a little bit at Travis Scott's Celebrity Softball Tournament. Of course, our OGs, Bun B, Paul Wall, Trade the Truth, Scarface, those guys were there, but some other big names, athlete names, guys like Adrian Peterson, Terrell Owens, Jose Canseco was just hitting bombs. Steroids work. He was hitting bombs into the Crawford boxes with a softball. It was great. But Travis Scott put on this event to help raise money for his foundation, which goes to scholarships for historically black colleges and universities. There's a group of HBCU teams at Minute Maid Park this weekend playing the Cactus Jack Classic, sponsored partially by Travis Scott's foundation, named after the foundation. So it's really cool. Teams from Mississippi Valley State, TSU, Prairie View, Jackson State, Grambling, Southern, I think that's all of them. I don't think I'm missing any other ones. They get to play on the field at Minute Maid Park, which is really cool, right? These are SWAC programs. A lot of these schools don't have as much of a budget, especially for baseball, as some other bigger baseball programs. And for them to get the opportunity to hang out with Reggie Jackson and see Travis Scott and then get to spend the weekend playing on a major league ballpark, it's a really cool opportunity for those kids. And it's a good showcase because Houston is an area where there are a lot of scouts and a lot of people based out of here, and those kids are going to get scouted. And there are plenty of good players at these smaller schools, at these HBCU schools, that the right scout believes in seeing a tool or a few tools on a guy, and a player from one of these colleges like a TSU, a Prairie View, could turn out into a really good asset for a minor league team, work his way up, make it to the bigs, and then, get these big contracts we're talking about with Framber Valdez and Kyle Tucker. But it was a pretty cool event. One of the cool things I'll show you here later in a bit. So they also debuted the Reggie bar. So back in the day, way before I was alive, I had to research this and then ask Reggie Jackson about it. Reggie Jackson had his own candy bar, like the Baby Ruth, right? Like Reggie Jackson believes Reggie Jackson is awesome, which I don't blame him. I love that level of self-confidence. And he's Mr. October. He's Mr. A Month. He's one of the greatest playoff performers in the history of the game. He won 5 World Series championships, right? He deserves it. So he saw Baby Ruth. He believed, I'm Reggie Jackson, I should have my own candy bar. Well, he does. So back in the day, they sold the Reggie bar. And, I read a little bit about it on Wikipedia and whatnot, but they're bringing it back. So the Astros now, Reggie works for the Astros, works for Jim Crane as a special assistant, and they thought it would be cool to bring it back. And so they are manufacturing like full-on real, like this is what the packaging pretty much looked like in the 70s, back when the Reggie bar was a thing. And they kept the original look of it. And it's funny because like it's a bar, and this isn't what we think of when we think of like a chocolate bar, right? Like a Snickers, Baby Ruth, Payday, whatever. I love 100 grand. Shout out Twix too, right? It's like a big turtle. So it's got caramel and peanuts, chocolate covered caramel. It's basically a turtle. It's a Reggie turtle, but he calls it the Reggie bar. And I picked one up, picked a few of them up. I haven't eaten this one yet. It's gonna get eaten. It's not. I don't think that's gonna. I'm gonna sit it on my desk, and I'm gonna just look at it every day. And every day, I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna eat the Reggie bar. So this thing is not gonna last long. But got to talk to Reggie Jackson about the help that he's giving these HBCU programs through the event. His relationship with Travis Scott, which is just the most unlikely pair, but those guys seem to like each other and have their foundations have worked together on some of these events. So it's pretty cool. And then I got to eat a Reggie bar with Reggie Jackson, which is like, if baseball bucket list, that's something to check off. So take a look at my chat with Reggie on these HBCU programs, what he wants to do to help more black players get into baseball, more African-American players get into baseball specifically, helping these programs, and then, of course, the relaunch of the Reggie Bar. How excited are you to be able to be in a position to do something for these HBCU colleges and to try to build put in an environment where more African Americans can play baseball?
I'm absolutely thrilled about it. I was looking forward to coming here for the last 2 or 3 months when I found out that Jim Crane had talked to me about, said, Reggie, I'd like you to host that, just be there for all 4 days, etc. And so I'm glad that the Astros and Jim and Paula with our foundation have gotten together here and got this HBCU tournament going on. I'm really looking forward to the talented players. I have not seen 180 to 200 African American young talented players together, so I'm very, very excited about it. And as you say, I'm very much aware that when I was playing, it was 16, 17% African American in the league. A lot of the big stars were all African American, so that went away. Right now, the African American population is only about 5 or 6%, and so when you see the college kids, again, I couldn't be more excited. I couldn't be more honored to be able to come here and share the experience. At the same time, I want them to know that you go to college, and if you don't make it in the big leagues, you don't make it to professional baseball, then there's other opportunities still in baseball, whether it's in the front office or whether it's on the field as a coach or a person that's in the administrative level, scouting or being a general manager or whatever. We now have a black general manager, Dana Brown. We interviewed 5 to 6 people, and 50% of them were black. So it was a big lift for me. I was so proud to be associated with the Astros with that happening and taking place. I just felt honored about it.
I want to ask you about the Reggie bar. I'm going to pop this open, and I don't know if you can eat it with the grill in, but
I got to take that out.
but I wanted to split a Reggie bar with you.
Oh boy, here we go. Woo!
I'll give you that half. I'm going to take this half. And tell me, years ago, how did this come about and how excited are you to have it back?
It came about when I made a comment that if I ever went to New York, they'd name a candy bar after me. And Nabisco picked up on it. They have the Baby Ruth bar. The Curtis Company has a Baby Ruth bar. They have the Butterfinger bar. And the Catfish Hunter said the candy bar is a lot like Reggie. You tear it open and it tells you how good it is.
Pretty cool, right? You get to eat a Reggie bar with Reggie Jackson. We only got a couple more minutes left here on Houston Sports Weekly. It is All-Star Weekend around the NBA. The Rockets will be sending several players, no players to the All-Star game because they're bad, but they will be sending several players to the Rising Stars game. 3, in fact. Jabari Smith Jr., supposed to be Jalen Green, and Alperen Şengün. Jalen Green is now out because he strained his groin guarding Timothy Chalamet of the Oklahoma City Thunder. So replacing him, and I'm glad that the league did this, is Tari Eason, a Rocket for a Rocket. Who broke the news? Tari Eason's mom broke the news on Twitter that the league will be replacing Jalen Green with Tari, and she was not happy that he didn't make it to the Rising Stars game, of course. We talked to Tari a couple weeks ago. He was unhappy. He felt like he wanted to show that he deserved to be in it. And now, the circumstances are unfortunate that Jalen Green got hurt, but Tari Eason is now in the Rising Stars game. KJ Martin will be doing the dunk contest. And it's a very kind of a limited group for the dunk contest. It's KJ Martin, Trey Murphy III, who big friend of the program here, ex-Rice, and then transferred to Virginia, now in the Pelicans. He's been playing really well this year, second year in the NBA, and I think he should be in the three-point contest. He was like the three-point record holder for Rice for threes, and not necessarily the dunk contest, but Trey's got some bounce. He's a great guy, and so other than KJ, I'm going to be cheering for Trey in the dunk contest. And then there's Jericho Sims from the Knicks, and Mac McClung, the former Texas Tech, the kid who had the dunk mixtape, played at Georgetown for a bit, played at Texas Tech, and he's a D-League or G-League guy who's had some 10-day deals and some two-ways and things like that. So those are your dunk contest participants. You got to think KJ Martin's got a good shot. He has as much bounce as anyone in the league, but I've heard something. One of my best friends is a Knicks reporter. I've heard some things about Jericho Sims Mac McClung has probably the best highlight videos, or at least they blew up when he was in high school. And then sleeper pick Trey Murphy III, who's just a nice kid out of North Carolina, went to Rice for a couple of years and set some three-point records for the Rice Owls. So looking forward to that. And, of course, the celebrity game will be partially coached by Alex Bregman. Talked to him a little bit about that. He's excited. His parents used to own a D-League team back in the day in Albuquerque. He's a big NBA fan. He's got Albert Pujols on his team, and he was joking with me that it's, give Albert Pujols the ball and let him go. So he's excited. All-Star game should be fun. No All-Stars for the Rockets, but you get to see KJ in the dunk contest, and you get to see some guys in the Rising Stars game. So this has been Houston Sports Weekly. Keep it with us on KPRC 2+. Please download the KPRC 2+ app, all of your streaming purposes. That's what we got for you. And lots of Astros, hit up Travis Scott, and a bit on the Rockets. So we'll get more in-depth every week on Houston Sports Weekly. Thanks for watching.